And here's where I lead you on to the next panel for this evening. Given that nothing shines brighter than a healthy heart, we ought to talk about healthcare this evening. So our next panel explores how cutting-edge research, strategic intellectual property protection, and market access can drive transformative solutions for global health. Here is where I welcome our panelists for human-centered healthcare, the intersection of IP, wellness, and innovation. I would request our speaker, Mr. Varun Khanna, Group Managing Director, Quality Care India Limited, a healthcare leader with expertise in medtech, investments, and business transformation, to join us here on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Varun Khanna, Group Managing Director, Quality Care India Limited. And now, let me welcome on the dais Mr. Harit Mohan, Founder and CEO, Significant Information Solutions, IP and innovative consultant to 750 plus global businesses, TEDx speaker and immediate past president, TiE Chandigarh. Ladies and gentlemen, please also welcome Ashish Kumar Gupta, partner, Risk, Grant Thornton, Bharat LLP. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Ashish Kumar Gupta. And now also join me in welcoming Mr. Supreet Singh, entrepreneur, public speaker, and host of the Supreet Singh Show, driving innovation in the pharmaceutical industry. And bringing it all together is our moderator, Kanika Rajdev, market research expert and leadership coach. All yours, Kanika. Aman bhai.
Thank you for the introduction, and in the interest of time, I think I'm going to launch directly into the attack mode. My first question is for you, Mr. Varun Khanna. Healthcare innovation is rapidly advancing, but I fundamentally see, and I think all of us will agree, that accessibility still remains a challenge. What do you think business leaders in the field of healthcare can do to change this or improve this?
All right, so I think, good evening everyone. The state of healthcare is quite visible with the empty room, and this is what is happening currently in India as well. I think healthcare in India, first of all, I go back to the education system. I want to thank the education system a little bit. Because if it was not for the education system, we won't have been here where we are from a healthcare standpoint. Just to give you a sense, we produce 125,000 doctors every year. And let me take another example. I used to be in Indonesia till a while ago. Indonesia is 1/4 of India from a population standpoint. It's got a GDP per capita which is quite equal to ours. And that country produces less than 100 specialists every year. So you can well imagine that in a country that produces so many more doctors, we could do much more. What's also really happened that I think for a few decades, we couldn't figure out whether the government is going to play the provider role or the payer role. It seems it's got sorted now, and 70% of today Indian healthcare is delivered in the private space. But the beds are far and few. While you're talking about innovation in healthcare, I think I'm a bit more concerned about our own understanding currently in the country, because our bed ratios today are about less than 1 per 1,000. And the first thing that the country needs is setting the infrastructure right, so that the innovation can actually be delivered to the patient. Our industry is, simplifying it for everyone, is talent, technology, and infrastructure. As a country, we lack infrastructure. We're just about getting there from a talent standpoint. And we do not innovate. We follow most of what is innovated outside of the country. When it comes to medical devices, we are just about starting to manufacture some of our own, but still not class leading, still not value addition. When it comes to pharma, we are the world's manufacturing facility, which is generic pharma, as you all hear. But innovation in drugs is something that we've not been able to do for whatever it's worth. So the previous panel was quite encouraging, but I did not kind of get a sense that we're looking at pharma as one of those domains where innovation can happen. I think I leave the group with a message that there's so much more to be done in healthcare. And the cavity is so large that anyone coming into healthcare from an innovation standpoint, from a tech standpoint, is guaranteed success. Just that it's a complicated business, a lot more people haven't really gone into this so far.
Very well said, and I rightly agree that we have loads of talent, but perhaps more support in terms of infrastructure and innovation is needed. And as we're speaking of innovation, Harit, your IP background nudges me to ask you a question in this regard. Do you think it's the innovation that is holding us back, like Mr. Varun said here, or do you think it's to do with the IP and laws and protection? That's the angle that is holding us back, especially in terms of drugs when we talk.
No, I think, thanks Kanika for that question, and I agree with what Varun was saying, that innovations in pharma, biotech, life sciences is generally very capex oriented. It needs a lot of money to do it. I'll start by saying that when I was entering into the job market for the first time, a very reputed company based out of Delaware, good sector, they offered me 8,000 rupees as salary, right? And so मुझे लगा कि यार मतलब if you are paying that much, how would you even retain talent at the innovation level? Hello. So one, it is capex oriented. Two, I think due to a lot of reasons, this industry is not paid enough, or the delay on the the investment return that you get is way too much. So that's definitely there. Now what has happened is that from the IP angle, yes, as generic wise, I think we are the biggest exporter perhaps today. But when it comes to the the new drugs development or filing CDAs, it's very difficult. A primary reason is cost. Second major reason would always be that the lack of awareness that a lot of small Indian companies still has. For any pharma company, they have to of course patent the new drugs, new compositions, new formulations that they're getting, and the trademarks for the names, whatever drugs are they trying to get into. So due to all that reasons, I think this will be a challenging scope. It is improving, which is good signal. However, it will take time, especially in the innovator drug side. Generic wise, I think we are the leaders, and probably we will be due to the lot of cost that we save. The quality on the generic side is another thing, maybe a separate topic. How much quality do we maintain, the adulteration that goes into the compositions, how we are able to keep the price so low, why do we get so many FDA rejections, is a different question. So I'm trying to keep it precise to help you also, Kanika.
Thank you, and very, very interesting inputs, and appreciate them. Ashish, we talked about innovation, talent, infrastructure, related things. Let's just switch gears for a moment, and let's say innovation is there. Let's say we have the right kind of protection of the IP side. In terms of taking that innovation to the market, what do you think are the challenges, or which typically could be a large enterprise or a startup in healthcare that they face when they want to take something to the market as it to scale?
Yeah, so thank you, and I would like to congratulate the organization because this is the 10th anniversary. So congratulations for organizing this fantastic event. And coming back to your question, when we work with clients like 1mg and Pristine Care, new age companies, and the first part when they have solved the innovation and things like that, I think regulatory battle is something which everybody has to fight. Even today when we speak, 80% of the e-pharmacy companies, they are non-compliant. They are selling something but they are non-compliant. So people need to think that investors who are planning to invest, they need to be on the right side of the law. And when we think about investments, the startup community must realize that we cannot be on the wrong side of the law and asking for investments. So these are some of the battles which the all investment community need to think through. And the startup, when they are building a product, they need to be aware that they need to have payback period in mind. If they do not have a clear thought on the regulatory landscape, the payback period can turn from 3 years to 7 years because there is no clarity on the first framework. That's it from my side.
Very true. So regulatory landscape is very relevant, especially when it comes to healthcare. It can't just be as randomized as some of the other industries. Supreet, your background with wellness and preventive healthcare. There's a lot of talk about preventive healthcare in the market right now, and that's a good change the way I see it, because people are now actually considering better lifestyles. In real terms, in business terms, do you think this is actually there? It can scale?
Actually, we were earlier busy making money, but now people are getting stabilized. So health, no wealth. So that's what we are coming back to. Good evening, everyone. So I started my business with the pharmaceutical segment, right? So 85% of our business is still pharmaceuticals, predominantly. But what I realized when COVID happened, and I was seeing people around me, falling sick, or even I'd seen a lot of deaths, even in our family, happening. That shook me off. So this platform, Sehat Card, so that was the time I thought that Sehat in general, in a holistic way, needs to be looked into. And there's been a transformational change within myself I had to make, because I was realizing that I cannot talk about health if I'm not healthy myself. So if that change has happened in me, I'm seeing the change happening everywhere. Now people are talking about health. Now people are talking about supplementation. Now people are talking about holistic health in general. Even I was doing a podcast with a very senior oncologist a week ago. He was talking about holistic health. Even the air we breathe, that's a part of health. And I always say that kitchen is the first pharmacy of any family. So it starts from there. And if we take care of all of these things together, the preventive health is there, and I see it's happening now, because the business is also growing, the numbers are also coming. There are buyers to these products, and we are also seeing, like even the gummy market, which was once dead, it has boomed up again in India. And Ayurveda market, I would say. So even though we do majority of our business through pharmaceuticals, but I love to promote wellness products, health products, and I see that there is a huge future, because if the preventive health is not there, even the Hippocrates once said that, if the patient is not willing to change their lifestyle, the medicines won't work. So the lifestyle needs to be changed, and it should be a part of our family discussions as well. Like on our dinner tables also, we should discuss what we are eating right now. Is it healthy enough? Because what we eat becomes us. And this is what I feel.
I absolutely agree, and I see that some importance is being given to Ministry of Ayush and the drugs that they're sort of approving. I mean, these are not drugs exactly, but the kind of alternative Ayurveda-based, I would say, solutions. But then I've also seen a lot of controversy, and this especially happened in terms of COVID, when some brands released their Ayurveda-based solutions, and then others were fighting. But I do see a change in households and the way people are thinking. Can't say much about that in terms of...
I just want to add, there is a regulatory gap between the pharmaceutical industry and the rest of the industry. The other industries need to pace up, and we need to make quality assurance the first and foremost thing in everything what we do. And this is how the trust in the alternative sciences will also grow, if the QA, quality assurance part grows.
Absolutely. Mr. Khanna, coming back to you. Private sector plays a major role in healthcare in India. We cannot ignore that. How do you think people in the private sector can balance their desire for profitability and their responsibility towards driving better health in the society?
All right, Kanika. So, this is a very interesting question, and I've actually fended this question for the last 2 decades, ever since I've been running hospitals. There's a popular belief that hospitals make too much money. And why I said popular belief, because I think a lot of people have not looked at the P&L of hospitals. If you look at P&Ls of hospitals, you'll realize that this is a 20% EBITDA business if you're very good at what you do. Yeah? And any other technology business makes an EBITDA 50 to 55% to be sustainable. The hotel that we are in would be doing an EBITDA of 45%, if not more. Right? Healthcare continues to be 20% EBITDA. So I think by nature, I don't think that's wrong for sustainability. The second thing you should know is India has taught the world of health frugality. We are the most frugal healthcare system on the planet. Today, while we are willing to pay the same dollars that US customers would pay for Netflix in India, but our consumers pay 1/20th of what the US pays, 1/10th of what you pay in Singapore, and 1/4 of what you'll pay in Indonesia. Having said that, I'll leave you with some thoughts. And Supreet said a good term, maybe I'll allude to that. He said quality. And let me ask you this question. How many of you know how to measure quality in a hospital or a doctor that you go to? A show of hands would be a good thing. I don't know if you're... how many of you know how to judge the quality of a doctor or a hospital that you're going to? By and large, okay.
How quickly are you
People
getting
are saying
cured?
no.
Sorry.
How quickly are you getting cured, perhaps?
Yeah, so let me tell you, I run hospitals, but I'll still tell you, the mool mantra is that you will ask somebody, is the doctor good, and you'll go there. Whereas when you are consuming an energy drink or a fruit juice, you will actually go through sodium, potassium, calories, whatnot, fat percentage. Tell me, where would you look at this data to identify whether the drug is not spurious, it's working, whether the outcomes of the hospital or the doctor that you're getting to is good enough. And because you don't look at that, and by the way, you are the elitist of this country, right? You're the elite 1% of this country. Can you imagine what happens in the rural networks of this country? And because the first line of treatment or wellness or quality and outcomes are not okay, the cost of every subsequent intervention is significantly higher. So I think it's not the price that we should bother about. We still are a very cheap healthcare system. It's the journey from wellness to getting the treatment right and to ensure that we're getting the right quality and outcomes is important to contain costs.
Very rightly said, and I think the proof for this is that medical tourism is very high in India. Switching gears quickly because in the interest of time, and I want to finish my questions with the rest of the
You can go with them,
panelists.
actually.
So no, Bharat, you can't miss this one. So we're talking a lot about AI-driven healthcare solutions also. How do you see the IP landscape changing in this regard?
I think AI is changing probably everything. 2-3 years ago, what was not thinkable is being done today. It all boils down to faster innovation, lesser market time. If we can kill a few less rats to get the medicines out, if we can sacrifice a few less mice to guinea pigs to things move out, why not build a simulation platform for which is simulated through AI? Why not? Drug development, better enzymes, better technology, everything is getting very fast. While we work for some of the Fortune 100 companies globally, this has been echoed very continuously by a lot of our clients also, that they are either looking for an AI partner who could help change the innovation cycle, or perhaps develop one by themselves, right? So AI is going to stick. It's definitely going to make far more innovation. There are still confusions कि अगर AI बना रहा है तो inventor कौन होगा? That debate is still out.
The use cases are phenomenal,
Yeah,
I believe.
but I think that's more of a legal problem to handle. The innovation will anyhow be fast-paced, and it has to be there for as you said, rural, for example, is a challenge, and a lot of people who do not get that kind of reach faster if it is can decrease the cost, especially on the innovation side, which is very much needed. AI is the way actually to go further.
Correct. Piggybacking off that response, Ashish, do you think AI and blockchain are going to improve or enhance the go-to-market for the new AI-based solutions? Are they going to add on to the efficacy and trust factor?
Sure. So while I am a risk professional, I optimize risk for the healthcare industry. But the way I have seen AI and blockchain working in the healthcare system is that, just imagine about if we have to analyze 1 lakh records, we cannot analyze 1 lakh record with accuracy in, let's say, a short period of time, which is, let's say, 2 months. But with AI, that is possible in few minutes or maybe few clicks of button. So I think that's the kind of change which is AI is bringing. I think the change which computers brought us in 90s, AI is bringing that to us today. It is quite disruptive, but rather than getting worried about it, we should be embracing the change, we should be learning, and irrespective of the industry, let me tell you, be it you are into healthcare or into education, or we spoke about in the previous session on the marketing, we have to think that how can we integrate AI into our working. Coming back to blockchain, blockchain again provides intershareability of data in a very, very secure manner. So unless we utilize these technologies, while we are yet to make it cheaper so that it is accessible to all, but it has to be utilized by all the systems and the ecosystem itself.
Agreed, agreed. So basically, a lot of use cases that can be thought of for bringing technology and innovation in healthcare to the market using AI and blockchain. So Preeti, last one for you. So we've talked about innovation and use of technology in terms of treatment. Can you suggest or share a recent example that you've come across of use of technology in preventive healthcare, which you think has actually improved scalability or profitability in some way?
See, technology is a thing which we cannot ignore and we should not ignore, especially in the healthcare industry. Health tech is a thing which is booming a lot. I came across an app a few days ago which aids in knowing the basics about your mental health, the basic issues about your mental health. And that was just I won't even say it's not a commercial app yet. So there are so many things which can downsize the burdens of even hospitals, and telemedicine is such a brilliant thing which is happening, and I think we should adopt it even more. I think Varun ji will tell us better about it, but anything which can reduce the time, reduce the burden of hospitals, of healthcare, and that can be done only through technologies. A person sitting in US, a person sitting in India can operate a person 7 seas apart or afar. So this is the beauty of technology, and this is happening, and it's a collective thing. The previous generations need to realize that technology has come and we have to adapt. Like computers came, as you mentioned, when Y2K came, everybody was scared, and now AI is coming and booming, and everybody is getting scared that it will take our jobs. No, we just need to adapt, because this is coming, and this is going to bring that change. Like gene technology, it's coming up very fast. We should adapt to it. When stem cell came, there were a lot of questions. There are still questions going on. See, I'm also convener of the Regional Pharma Health and Wellness Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industries. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to bridge the gap between the ecosystem, and that's so important. And every industry, including technology, has to go hand in hand, because the future in healthcare is India, and India is going to take care of the healthcare of the world, and that cannot be done without technology.
Wonderfully said, and even though I had one last question, but in the interest of time, I think I'll just take the opportunity to thank everyone on the panel. You have left us with very interesting thoughts about how to think about technology, innovation and healthcare together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay back for a minute. एंड गुलजार साहब कहते हैं कि अधूरी मुलाकातें ही फिर मिलने की वजह बनती हैं, तो अगर यहाँ पर कुछ मुलाकातें इस वक्त अधूरी रह गई, यानी कि फिर मिलने का मौका ज़रूर मिलेगा. Thank you for understanding my situation, and I would also request Mr. Amulya Shukla, Mr. Dipanshu Thakral and Mr. Karun Kashmiri to join me on the dais to felicitate this wonderful panel on human-centered healthcare, the intersection of IP, wellness and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, first up, please give it up for Mr. Varun Khanna, Group Managing Director, Quality Care India Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Varun Khanna, Group Managing Director, Quality Care India Limited. Next up we have Mr. Harit Mohan, founder and CEO, Significant Information Solutions, as also immediate past president, TiE Chandigarh. And we also have Mr. Ashish Kumar Gupta, partner, Risk, Grant Thornton Bharat LLP. And let us also warmly felicitate Mr. Supreet Singh, entrepreneur, public speaker, and host of the Supreet Singh Show. And always last but not the least, our moderator, Kanika Rajdev, market research expert and leadership coach, specializing in strategic consulting and brand growth. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for that very important conversation that needed to be had this evening.